you're here. Great to have you here. I recognize your faces out there. What I want to talk about just briefly, and I'm going to be a little bit careful in terms of talking about political issues as much as elected official on state property. I have some different rules to follow than others may speak to you. So I won't be as partisan today about those issues as it might be in another setting. But I do want to talk about why it's important for you to be involved, why it's important, even if you're outnumbered on your campus, to hold firm, why it's important that politics matter in life. And there are a couple of reasons. First, why are politics important? If you're in business in life, everyone does something. Owns a business, manages a business, works in a business. Everyone has a home or lives in an apartment, everyone has a car. Everything you do is controlled in some way or influenced or impacted by your government. We know the federal government has too much impact on our lives. So what can you impact? Well, if one day you run for Congress or if one day you work in government in some way that impacts federal government, yes, you can have an impact there. More likely, you can have the impact in government from the smallest level up to the biggest level. The smallest level being a water district, a school district, then move up to state rep, city council, county commissioner, county judge, state senator, statewide officials. The pyramid, as it builds up, all impacts your future. If you choose not to engage, if you choose not to be involved, then you really don't have a say in your future. And many other people will take advantage of your lack of involvement, and they'll run over you. When I meet with business groups all the time, I tell them, if you're not involved in what goes on at the state capitol, then you're really not in business. I met with a group of, and I won't mention the industry, pretty big industry, and they had a problem, and they asked me to come and speak and talk about it. They didn't have an association, they didn't have a lobbyist, they didn't come to the Capitol, they didn't do anything, and they're wondering why bills were going to be passed and was going to impact their livelihood. So first of all, the reason to be involved in politics is that politics will impact everything you do now to the day you die. Your earnings, how you live, maybe even where you live, how the politics impact where you live, why do people move to the suburbs? For better schools. Politics, because our failing schools in the inner city, many people will move to that. It impacts everything. Secondly, it's powerful because you can multiply. You say, I'm just one person. Well, yeah, you're one person, but you have the opportunity, particularly with social media today, that we didn't have in my generation, didn't even have really 10 or 15 years ago. You have the impact to influence many. Because so few people are involved, because so few people vote, you have tremendous impact to make a difference. So you can take your group today to the college campus, your group of friends, next it will be in your workplace. You can multiply your influence by your knowledge. Most people vote for people that they've never met and don't know. During my campaign, I did about 16 events. But if I met 100 people a day, which I didn't during the campaign, but if I did, it's 3,000 a month, 10 months, 30,000 people, 15-month campaign, another 15, 45,000 people. A lot of those people I've met multiple times. Saw people multiple times. So maybe I met 20,000 people. Maybe. 2.5 million voted for me. But how did 2,480,000 people decide to vote for me? They never saw me, never shook my hand, never heard me give a speech. A couple of things. First of all, media. They did see the TV commercials. That's why you have to have money to run for office. It's about $1 million a week, by the way, to be on television in Texas, to be on the morning news, the afternoon news, the evening news, the late news, on every news station in every market in the state, about $1 million a week. So you have to, in a statewide race, you have to have money. So you get your message out. But they voted for me in large part because of the issues that I stood for, and they voted because someone else told them. So maybe out of those, think about this. I said maybe I reached out to 20,000 people. Well, if those 20,000 people who met me talked to 10 or 20 others, suddenly Now I'm 400,000 people. But that group impacted because maybe they were a family member, maybe they were on your website, they were in their college, whatever it was. And someone said, well, you know, I've never read that. Hey, I went to heard him speak. I really like what he stands for. You ought to go to his website. You ought to vote for him. Most people don't know who to vote for. They just really don't. So you can really multiply your influence if you're knowledgeable and you can answer people's questions about issues. Well, where does he stand on guns? Where does he stand on life? Where does he stand on taxes? Where does he stand on this issue? Well, here's what he does. That's what's going to happen in the presidential campaign. You already see it. We're going to have so many people running on the Republican side, and people are going to be asking you, because you're the informed folks, well, what do you think? People always gravitate to people who have more knowledge than them. We all do it. We don't admit it, but we do. So pretty soon, maybe people who aren't involved in politics or as much as you are, they're going to hear your discussions, and if you do it the right way, not a know-it-all, not telling people how to do it, just say, hey, what do you think about this? Let me tell you what I know. So first of all, you need to be involved because your life depends on it. Your livelihood depends on it. Secondly, you need to be involved because you can help shape your own future by influencing those around you. And I've seen people who have done dramatic things. You look at True the Vote, which started in Houston, now it's nationwide. One lady started it who worked in her business and told her husband, I'm not working in the business anymore. I'm tired of what's happening to me. I'm tired of one party maybe manipulating her view. Kathleen Engelbert was her name. She went from being a lady who worked in a business to a lady who was on Fox News 6 months later, to a lady that started with 10 people working in Houston, just trying to find volunteers to watch polling places, to have a nationwide organization. She went from one lady working in a small business to a person who was the target of the IRS. She was so powerful. Everyone, again, today in social media has the ability to influence and attract so many people. If it's done thoughtfully, if it's done on a knowledge-based basis, and if you do it in a way that people are attracted to you. So, you know, I counted us in the back, there are about 30, 35 of you here. Look at your college campuses. How many people on your college campus are as involved as you are? How many are as knowledgeable as you are? So it's important to be involved. It's important to know you really can make a difference. The third thing is, I think your generation has a tougher road ahead than any generation. You know, it used to be, you know, the old story, the old joke. Maybe it's not an old joke anymore. Maybe the joke doesn't exist. But my generation, my grandparents would always say, you know, I used to have to walk to school in the snow without shoes, you know, uphill both ways. It was, you know, how tough we had it growing up. And my grandparents' generation and my parents' generation didn't have it. My generation is really the golden generation of all time. My dad's generation, my mom's generation, almost all went to war. Many of our young people, many of the people in my generation went to war, but not pretty much the entire population. My parents' generation, my grandparents' generation grew up in an agrarian society, little federal government involvement, little taxes. You know, they grew up in the country, they grew up in rural areas. World War II made them move to the cities for jobs, to work in airplane factories, to work in plants, making tanks, whatever. They're going home. And after World War II, that generation had it tough. Coming back from the war, very few people had a college education. College was something only rich people could do. So, and if you were my dad's generation, he was born in 1926, my parents' generation, 60 was really an old person. You know, today, I expect to live to 85 or 90. I'm already an old person compared to the last generation because I've cracked that 6-0 barrier. Tough generation, they worked really hard. Didn't make a lot of money, didn't have a lot of niceties, unless they were the exception. How about my generation? I benefited. It was expected in my generation, in the 1960s when I finished school, 1970s go to college, it was expected to go to college. It wasn't only for rich kids anymore, which gave us great opportunity. You don't have to have a college education to be successful at all, but it was sure a step in the right direction to higher earnings and a lifestyle. My family never took a vacation. My family, today, it's not uncommon for a family to take their kids to a foreign country. It's not uncommon to have a swimming pool in the backyard. I'm talking about all the things in life that your generation now takes for granted. It really didn't exist for my parents' generation unless you were in that top few percent. So my generation, going very well. We've had this great opportunity. curriculum. Maybe back to walking to school in the snow with no shoes uphill both ways. If we don't take care of this country, we don't take care of this state. Your chances of coming out of school with a lot of debt, my generation didn't have. There's an article in the Wall Street Journal that more students coming out of college are living at home than ever before, because their college loans prohibit them from being able to get married or buy a house or even buy a car. If it's a used car, if it's not a very good used car. Your generation is facing a tremendous tax burden of Social Security and Medicaid to pay for my generation, because we're living longer. You know, Social Security was designed because they thought most people were going to be dead before they collected it, or a year after they collected it. Now, people expect to live maybe a third of their life as a kid. And I'm not saying when you're in college you're a kid, but under 20, like, should be. Now work my way through college. I'm not saying you don't work hard, but you know, 0 to 20, you're a baby, you're a kid, you're a teenager, you're a college student. Life's pretty much great. Then you have the third of your life in the middle, from about 22 to 62, where you're building a career, raising a family, all those challenges, all those pressures, and all that stress. And then now today, you're retired in your 60s, you can expect to live the last third of your life as retired. Someone's got to pay for all that. You know, I read these stories. You know, we think this next generation, people, the average, you know, people can live to 125. I don't know how they're going to pay for it all. You know, who's going to hire a 90-year-old? I mean, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. My point is that there's going to be more pressure on your generation because you're going to be carrying the load for more people. So you have to have a government at the local level, the federal level, who understands they can't take all of your earnings to pay for other people's lives. Your generation has to understand there's going to be more competition for jobs that you haven't even thought of yet that didn't exist yet. I mean, Facebook wasn't hiring 20 years ago because they didn't exist. No one was down there fixing your cell phone because it really didn't exist 20 years ago. I mean, all these jobs that you don't even know about. You don't know you're a college grad 10 years from now. You go say, man, I need to go back to school and take some courses in that. My point is that there's going to be so much pressure on a career. When I grew up, it was not uncommon for people to go to college and say, this is what I'm going to do in my career, and I'm going to do that for 40 years and retire. Whatever that was. When I went to college, I said, okay, I'm going to work 40 years, 22 to 62. My goal is to have 8 jobs, 5 years each, or 5 jobs, 8 years each. Because you know, 8 years is about all I need to do one thing. I want to go and learn something about something else. And I pretty much have done that in kind of an odd kind of way. Keeps me interested, keeps me energized, keeps me excited. My point, again, is that you are the leaders. Being here today is the leader. Being here today because you're interested in your future, because you're interested in your present, how to impact you. Our country needs you. Our state needs you. Your family's going to need you. And you need you. So I think you have tough sledding ahead, but I'm always an optimist. I'm always an optimist because government usually creates the problem. And we finally rally around and find the right elected officials to help solve the problem. And then government creates the problems. And then we go through the malaise, and we find the right people to solve those problems. For every Jimmy Carter, there was a Ronald Reagan. For every Bill Clinton, there was a George Bush. I don't know who we're going to have for Barack Obama, but we need a Reagan, a Bush. We need someone to turn this country back around. His name is Rand. or Ted, or Scott, or somebody. And so think about how you can mobilize young people all across this country on campuses everywhere to maybe decide if it's Rand or Ted or Scott or whoever. You know, percentage of people who go to college and vote is in single digits. So, goes back to my point. There's always a handful of leaders. I'm sure when I grew up, I always heard about the 80-20 rule. I'm sure you've heard of it. If you're in church, 20% of the people are the volunteers. 20% of the people raise the money. If you're at work, 20% of the people are the people who excel. 80% just go along. It's the old 80-20 rule. There's always 20% leading the 80%. So being here today shows you're already one of 20%. Continue to be one of 20%. Don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged if you don't get the whole loaf, as Ronald Reagan said on the first day. Don't be discouraged if if your country seems headed in the wrong direction, because I do believe God has blessed this country with our Constitution is based on the Word of God, the Old and New Testament. It's given us this blessing, it's given us this direction that other countries have not had. But we're still a young country. Other civilizations have failed by now, and other civilizations have maybe about 100 years. And I would argue that if, on a partisan point, if we don't have the right conservative people running our government at the federal level and local level, we could be one of those civilizations. So I ran for office in my 50s. The last time I ran for office, I ran for my junior class vice president, my senior class president in high school, won those elections. And then I waited 35 years to run again. I was busy building a career, but I was always involved in charitable work, political work. I was always involved. So my charge to you today is always stay informed, always stay involved, always know that no one is in better charge against anything yourself. You're not going to win every battle. You'll lose some skirmishes, you'll lose some fights, but the object is to win the war. And the war is to preserve the freedom and liberties this country has given to my generation, my parents' generation, their parents' generation. We can get good kids. My only focus now in my life, and my 3 and my 4th grandchild coming, what will the country be for them in 25 years, 50 years? What will Kansas do? Otherwise, I'd go to the beach. Otherwise, I'd sit by the pool. Otherwise, I'd cash it in my 60s and say, I've worked enough. But I'm in the job I'm in because I care about my kids' future, and right now my grandkids' future, and your future. There are a lot of us, but in about 20 years we'll be handing that baton to you. You need to be ready, you need to be prepared. And I trust that you are. I trust that we'll be in good hands. Very quick note on the Texas Senate. We're having a great session. And that session is, Lieutenant Governor, the first 20 bill numbers, 1 through 20, are the low number bills for Lieutenant Governor. They're the people's priorities, Lieutenant Governor's priority, Senator's priority. If you were a senator, you'd say, Dan, can I get bill number 5 or bill number 10? Because if you get bill number 5 or bill number 10, the other senators know that I'm supporting it. Our top 20 bills in the past 3, 4, 5 sessions, by this time, 4 or 5 have passed. We've passed 17 out of our bills already. Some people aren't comfortable that we're setting the agenda. Some people aren't comfortable that we're leading as conservatives. Some people aren't comfortable with their liberty yet. But I didn't run for office for the status quo. I didn't run for office to sit back and let other people decide my kids' future. Your Senate, your senators are doing a fabulous job. They're working hard. 9 of the 31 are freshmen, which is pretty amazing. It's really amazing. I would encourage you to pursue your dreams. I would encourage you to never not accept a challenge, no matter how daunting it may be, because the world is looking for leaders, the state's looking for leaders. And by the way, when you get out of college and get that job, remember, companies are looking for superstars. They're not looking for average folks. They're looking for someone who comes early and stays late. They're looking for someone who doesn't complain and does the job. They're looking for someone who's going to help make that money. They're looking for someone who's going to help secure their job. They're looking for someone that they can count on. If you're that person, you will rise very quickly no matter your age. And you will become a leader that you are on the college campus and in school. With that, thank you. Keep up with us. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. If you're not there, then you're missing out on what's going on in the session. Thank you all for having me.